Afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We know your time is valuable. My name is Stephanie Hoff, and I am one of the presenters for today's event. We're really looking forward to connecting with you all and appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about the European and US infant formula regulations, as well as the history of Kendamil. A few housekeeping items. We are recording this presentation, so following the event, you'll receive a link to your email where you could rewatch the presentation if you so desire. And also in that same email, we will be providing a short survey for you to complete, provide feedback, as well as submit any questions that you thought of throughout the presentation. We really want to ensure that your questions are answered in a timely manner. So our speakers for today's event, I'm going to introduce everyone. So first we have Ross McMahon, who is the co-founder and CEO of Kendamil Infant Brands. Ross holds a bachelor's degree in agricultural and food science with a specialization in dairy microbiology from the University College of Dublin. Stephanie Hoff is a pediatric dietitian, and she is the healthcare manager for Kendamil Infant Brands. Stephanie holds a bachelor's degree in dietetics from Miami University, completed her dietetic internship at Vanderbilt University, and has 8 years of clinical experience practicing as a pediatric dietitian. And then lastly, we have Amarel Tomney, who is the product manager for Kendamil Infant Brands. Amarel holds a bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Maryland. She also has her master's degree in biochemistry and molecular biology from the George Washington University. So what we will be covering today throughout the presentation is we're going to start off by sharing a little bit of history about the Kendamil name as well as the brand. We're going to be looking at key features of the Kendamil infant formulas available. We're also going to be sharing specific resources that we have for healthcare professionals about the current Kendamil product range that's available in the United States. And then we're going to be discussing specifically who regulates the infant formulas in both Europe and the United States. And lastly, we will be reviewing specific European regulations and their health benefits to infants. So now please welcome Ross.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to set out our story as to how we created the world's best infant formula, Kendamil. It all began where I grew up in rural Ireland, in County Monaghan, where our family farmed the land, and my late father every year organised an agricultural show to feature various food companies. And from this, I developed a keen interest in food nutrition. I went on to UCD in Dublin for 5 years and worked around the globe with various multinationals in Germany, Austria, and also in California. In 2010, we decided to investigate the infant formula industry and interview parents about their experience. A lot of people were having issues with standard products, with reflux, colic, constipation, sleep patterns being disrupted. So we thought there was a real opportunity to create a better product. So in 2015, we bought a facility based in the English Lake District from Heinz. This factory was set up originally in 1962 by GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, and they were a pioneer in the production of baby formula, introducing the first brand, Farley's. When we bought the facility, the first thing we did was we got it approved under the British Retail Consortium Grade AA. Then in 2016, we launched the brand Kendamil and named it after the local town of Kendal, which is just 8 miles from the famous Lake Windermere in the English Lake District. Our most famous client was Prince Louis, youngest son of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. In 2010, the company was awarded the Queen's Award for Enterprise. And in 2022, Kendamil was launched into the US market. Kendal NutriCare is a family business. My eldest son, William, is the commercial director, and his younger brother, Dylan, is co-founder and growth manager. When we looked at the problems the industry had, we decided to speak to the formulators who had been employed in the company for the previous 40 years and ask them what was the best product that they had produced. They said to me traditionally they used milk fat from whole milk in their recipes, but in the 1980s, industry had changed and started importing vegetable oils from Southeast Asia. And they noticed a big difference in the results from using these products. So we decided on buying the facility to go back to using whole milk from local Cumbrian farmers, because fresh liquid, we believe, is the closest way. If you want to get close to breast milk, you need to use a mammal's milk fat. We have a 20-step process. So within a radius of 10 miles of the facility, we take in fresh cow's milk. We also take in fresh goat's milk from Yorkshire. Once the tankers arrive at our factory, the milk is pasteurized within 1 hour. Then it is wet blended with lactose, whey, vitamins and minerals, and then it undergoes an evaporation process to remove the water, and it enters the spray dryer at 55% solids. We dry the powder to 3% moisture, and then we hold it for 1 week to check all the micro and chemical parameters. Then we blend in essential minerals and pack it on our high-speed canning line under nitrogen gas. The product is then further analyzed for micro and chemicals, and this is then positively released into our warehouse for export around the world. We believe in protecting our planet, so from day one, we've never used palm oil because, as many of you may know, in Southeast Asia, the rainforests are being cut down to harvest palm oil, which is affecting the indigenous communities and the native wildlife. Cumbria, where we are based in the north of England, is the second biggest milk pool in England. And here we have very high farming standards, good animal welfare. We follow organic practices of no artificial fertilizers. We source DHA from an algal oil. This gives us a certification as vegetarian. We avoid sourcing from fish oil as we want to preserve the oceans and the fish. We have a very low carbon footprint because all our milk comes from a small radius in Cumbria, and we can also source our other dairy products and packaging within the UK. Our factory runs on 100% renewable electricity. Our product today is sold in over 45 countries, reaching 2.7 billion people and is retailed in over 35,000 stores. And we are really the fastest growing formula brand in Europe and the US. When the infant shortages began in 2022, we reached out to the FDA and we told them we had product ready in English with the correct levels of iron to suit the US market. Luckily, we already had been in contact with the FDA in Maryland since 2017, and we had already begun our growth monitoring study, our human trials, and appointed CROs to carry out these trials. So we were delighted to be granted under Operation Fly Formula the opportunity under enforcement discretion to supply American families in 2022. And it has been a fantastic success. And we believe that success is down to the difference in our formulation.
Thank you, Ross. We appreciate you sharing your educational background and the unique history of the Kendamil infant formula brand. I'm now going to be talking about the research behind some of the key features that you will find in the Kendamil infant formula ranges that are available in the United States. So we at Kendamil recognize that breastfeeding is best for the infant, and it should always be regarded as the gold standard for infant nutrition. We really strive to provide the next best alternative in the form of infant formula when breastfeeding is not an option or if a mother chooses to move on from breastfeeding. The reason breast milk is the gold standard for infant nutrition is because it really provides all the essential nutrients a baby needs to grow, thrive, and develop from the first day of life. So when we look at the components in breast milk, you'll find that a third of the dry weight in breast milk is fat, close to 60% is carbohydrates, protein is 8%, and then vitamins and minerals make up the remaining 1%. So when we look at fat, fat is a crucial nutrient for infants and actually provides roughly half of their total energy needs. And so when we look at the fat in breast milk, 100% of the fat content comes from milk fat. And that is really where Kendamil became inspired to incorporate milk fat in our recipe. So Kendamil chose to use mammalian milk fat because it has naturally occurring short and medium chain fatty acids, which have been shown to be easier to digest and actually more closely resemble the fat profile of human breast milk. So Kendamil's fat content comes from fresh, liquid, whole milk as our source of milk fat, as well as we provide essential fatty acids such as linoleic and alpha-linoleic acid. However, many formulas available in the United States, but also worldwide, provide 100% of their fat content by using a combination of vegetable oils. So if you've ever looked at the ingredient list on the back of a can of formula, typically the first 1 to 2 lines share what are the macronutrient ingredients. So that's fats, carbohydrates, and protein. And that makes up 99% of the formula recipe. The remaining ingredients make up the vitamin and mineral content, which is just 1% of the formula recipe. So if you have looked at a Kendamil can, the first ingredient that you'll see on our ingredient list is whole milk. Again, this is coming from fresh liquid whole milk, which is providing our milk fat source. And actually 107 grams of liquid milk is used to make 100 grams of powder. As I've shared, fat plays such an important role in providing an infant with energy, as well as the building blocks for brain development and cognition. But even beyond that, fat has also been shown to play a really big role in regulating the infant's gut comfort. And I know from clinical experience in talking with families who have needed to utilize infant formula to help meet their child's nutritional needs, common complaints that I would hear is that their child would be developing constipation and just showing signs of being more irritable and fussy. So again, a great reason to really look at the benefits of adding whole milk in an infant formula recipe. And a study was done in 2020 that actually looked at some of the benefits of having whole milk added to infant formula. So this study looked at over 400 infants that were fed either a formula utilizing whole milk or non-fat milk. And what they found is that those infants who were fed a formula with whole milk showed less gut discomfort, less crying and fussiness, and they had softer stools. And having softer stools is so critical when we're trying to reduce the risk of developing constipation, which is really common in formula-fed babies. So not only does whole milk fat support an infant's gut comfort as well as provide essential nutrients for energy, but it also provides additional benefits for an infant. The fat content in both human and mammalian milks consist of triglycerides that are bound to fat globules. So these fat globules make up the MFGM, which stands for milk fat globule membrane. So because Kendamil uses whole milk fat, the MFGM is naturally occurring in our recipe. So for standard infant formulas that use vegetable oils, those formulas tend to lack MFGM and its important features and benefits. Over the last several years, there have been emerging evidence looking at the benefits of having MFGM added to infant formula and how that supports a baby. Specifically, one of those areas is supporting cognitive development. A study completed in 2019 showed that infants who were supplied with MFGM between the ages of 2 and 6 months of age resulted in an increase in serum choline, which we know is a nutrient extremely important for brain function and development. There was another study completed in 2014 specifically looking at immune support. They were looking at infection rates of infants fed a formula supplemented with MFGM. Those infants who were fed a formula with MFGM actually showed a significantly lower rate of illness, especially otitis media, and having MFGM has been shown to support a healthy microbiota, which is really important throughout the first year of life. Kendamil formulas also contain HMOs, or human milk oligosaccharides, which are the third largest component found in breast milk and make up roughly 10% of the dry weight of mother's milk. HMOs have been extensively studied and have been shown to help stimulate the immune system, strengthen gut barrier function, and block harmful pathogens. You will find 3-GL or 3-galactosylactose in Kendamil's infant formulas, which have been shown to support the infant gut and developing immune system. As Ross mentioned, Kendamil's infant formula does not contain palm oil. So palm oil is a source of palmitic acid, which is a saturated fatty acid that is found naturally in breast milk and mammalian milk fat. For those infant formulas who do not use whole milk fats in their recipe, they need to rely on vegetable fats to provide this fatty acid content. The vegetable fats found in palm oil do not provide the same natural molecular structure, and therefore an infant cannot metabolize as well and break down in the gut to be utilized for energy. As a result, infants may struggle with constipation, as it has been shown to form harder stools, as well as it may impact their ability ability to absorb fats as well as calcium. The natural milk fat found in Kendamil's infant formulas provides the natural structure for infants to metabolize and utilize the saturated fatty acid for energy. So now that we've reviewed the clinical features of our infant formulas, let's now talk about the Kendamil products that are currently available in the United States and where your families can purchase the Kendamil formulas. So Kendamil's infant formula is our routine starter formula that meets all FDA standards for infant formula, including iron. Again, it has the whole milk recipe with naturally occurring MFGM. It utilizes plant-based DHA. It's also vegetarian, halal, and kosher. It contains HMOs as well as dual prebiotics. And all of these great features utilizing high quality ingredients, we're really proud to provide this product at an accessible, affordable price for all US parents. Additionally, we have the Kendamil organic formula, which is the organic version of the Kendamil infant product that I just shared. Again, this product meets all FDA standards and it's certified European organic. Kendamil sources their whole milk from organic cows that are pasture fed without the use of artificial fertilization. Both of these products have been readily available at Target stores across the country since the summer of 2022, and we are really proud with how hard our team has worked to provide consistent product inventory for families during the formula crisis. Over the next 2 months, we will also be expanding more nationwide, and we will be in mass merchandisers across the United States, making our products more accessible for families across the country. Coming this summer, we're really excited to also provide an additional formula offering in Kendamil Goat infant formula. This product also meets all FDA standards for infant formula, uses whole goat milk recipe with MFGM, and this is a more gentle option for some of your patients that may have more sensitive tummies because the protein found in goat's milk forms smaller and softer curds and are therefore easier on the baby's tummy to digest. So be sure to stay tuned for when this product is launching. From day one, our team has always strived to partner with healthcare professionals across the United States. We are really passionate about providing education and interacting with healthcare professionals as well as families. We want to provide you all with the knowledge of what you can find in our infant formula range so that you and parents can make the best informed decisions for your patients or child. We have also built a set of online resources that may include summaries of scientific relevant research articles. We also provide deeper dive discussions into our key features, as well as mixing instructions and nutrition profiles to support your infant patients. We're also looking forward to hopefully meeting some of you in person. We'll be attending key pediatric conferences later on this year, including NASPGHAN, FNCE, and the American Academy of Pediatric Conference, all happening this October. We also are working very hard to provide a sampling program so that you all will be able to utilize the Kendamil infant products in your own clinic. And you could always visit us at www.us.kendamil.com for more resources.
Hi everyone, my name is Amarel and I am Product Manager at Kendamil. I will be discussing some of the differences in formula regulations between Europe and the US. In Europe, the European Food Safety Authority regulates minimum and maximum quantities for specific nutrients in infant formula, as well as the types of ingredients themselves that should or should not be included. So everything from general macro and micronutrient quantities to the actual composition of infant formula. They have an extensive guidebook, which delves deep into the dietary science behind the exact composition of infant formula and why certain regulations have been established. In the US, it's the Food and Drug Administration that provides the formula standards. They mostly provide a general table that lists the minimum and maximum quantities of macros, vitamins, and minerals. So here is a direct comparison of some of these macronutrients and vitamin ranges that each authority has established. I'm going to discuss a few specific components where the regulations might differ a little bit and what the benefits would be of such discrepancies. More specifically, as highlighted here in yellow, vitamin D and DHA. And then here you can see a direct comparison of the standard range of minerals as well as carbohydrates. Out of these, I will touch upon iron and lactose primarily. So first, I will talk about DHA. It is found in breast milk, and it's an omega-3 fatty acid, which many of you may already know plays a vital role in brain and eye development. One study showed that infants who were fed formula with DHA processed information faster at the age of 6 compared to those who did not. And as far as eye development, studies have shown that infants who were supplemented with DHA during the first 12 months of their lives improved visual acuity compared to those infants who did not. There are even prenatal benefits to DHA. DHA supplementation during pregnancy could decrease the risk for premature birth. So let's look at the regulations themselves for Europe versus the US. In Europe, the minimum amount of DHA required in formula is 20 milligrams per 100 calories, and the maximum is 50 milligrams per 100 calories. In the US, there are no established requirements. Kendamil has 24 milligrams of DHA per 100 calories, and most American infant formulas range anywhere from 8 to 20 milligrams of DHA per 100 calories. Up next is vitamin D. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and it's a hot topic nutrient, especially since many individuals are deficient in vitamin D. It is involved in many pathways in the body and has many health implications. So therefore, it's important to have sufficient vitamin D storages. It plays a vital role in cell growth and differentiation, maintaining immune and cardiovascular function, and it also plays a role in skeletal health, more specifically bone health, by helping to balance calcium and phosphate levels. Having enough vitamin D has been shown to reduce the risk of infections and allergies. The AAP recommends that infants 0 to 12 months obtain 400 international units of vitamin D a day, while toddlers and children should obtain 600 international units. And as far as the specific regulatory requirements, in Europe, formulas are required to have at least 2 micrograms of vitamin D per 100 calories. 2 micrograms of vitamin D is equal to 40 international units. In the US, formulas are required to have at least 1 microgram of vitamin D, which is equivalent to 20 international units per 100 calories. Kendamil has 80 international units of vitamin D per 100 calories, and most other formulas in the US have about 60 international units. So just to give some perspective here, infants who would be combo feeding, in other words, receiving a combination of breast milk and formula, and are drinking, let's say, 20 ounces of formula a day, would be getting about 240 international units of vitamin D from some of the most common US brands, whereas a baby drinking the same amount of Kendamil would be getting 320 international units of vitamin D. So there's a bit of a marked difference there. We believe that it is easier for parents to not have to worry about giving the extra vitamin D to reach that 400 international unit recommendation, and there even might be a low compliance rate with giving the extra vitamin D, as most parents are busy juggling new life with a newborn. Now moving to iron. There are generally a lot of discussions surrounding iron quantities in European formula versus American formula. The body needs iron to make hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is responsible for carrying oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body. As such, iron is an essential mineral that plays a critical role in human health and well-being. Babies need iron to help with normal brain development. A baby is born with adequate iron stores for the first 4 to 6 months of life. Iron is added to formula at higher concentrations than what is found in breast milk because the iron added to formula is harder for the baby to absorb. Lactose helps with the iron absorption along with vitamin C. Too much or too little iron can have negative implications for infants as well. So just looking at some of the regulations in Europe, Europe requires infant formula to have at least 0.3 milligrams of iron per 100 calories, with 1.3 milligrams being the maximum. In US, the minimum is 0.15 milligrams and the maximum allowed is 3 milligrams per 100 calories. Kendamil has 1 milligram of iron per 100 calories, while most US formula brands range from 1 to 1.8 milligram per 100 calories. European regulations are all based on various clinical studies, including the rate of absorption of iron in formula versus breast milk, effects of too much iron fortification in an infant's diet, as well as too little iron. In the European guidebook for infant formulas, cited studies state that if you consider the iron absorption in formula versus breast milk, formula with 0.3 milligrams per 100 calories of iron has been shown to be adequate to maintain iron status within normal range during 0 to 6 months of age. This could exclude, of course, infants that were born very premature, however, and need supplementation anyway. For 6+ months, 0.6 milligrams per 100 calories has been proposed and takes into account complementary foods rich in iron as well. Kendamil is actually considered an iron-fortified formula by US standards since it has at least 1 milligram of iron per 100 calories. Here in the US, for a formula to be labeled as iron-fortified, the formula needs to have at least 1 milligram of iron per 100 calories. If a formula has less than 1 milligram of iron per 100 calories, it needs the labeling that indicates iron supplementation might be needed. Kendamil is unique over other European brands as its iron content meets US standards for being considered iron fortified. There are some other European brands that fall below the 1 milligram per 100 cal requirement for being considered iron fortified, but Kendamil does not. Okay, on to lactose. Lactose is a disaccharide and it's the primary carbohydrate in breast milk. Emerging research is now supportive of lactose for infants, overall digestion, and bone health. Specifically, when we look at digestion, formulas that have lactose may help improve constipation symptoms that are commonly observed in formula-fed infants. This is because some of the lactose is used to soften the stool and also creates a prebiotic effect by promoting the growth of healthy bacteria and therefore a healthy gut. And when it comes to bone health, studies show that having lactose in an infant formula may help with better calcium absorption in formula-fed infants. And then when it comes to taste, lactose-based formulas have a more natural, sweeter taste compared to some other carb sources that are used in infant formula. So now on to the differences in regulations in Europe versus the US. In Europe, the suggested required amount for lactose in formula is 4.5 grams of lactose per 100 calories. And in the US, there's no suggested amount. So lactose has a lower glycemic index compared to other carbohydrates that are currently used in some formula brands. For example, corn syrup, which is used in many leading brands, has a glycemic index of 100, and maltodextrin has a glycemic index of about 110, whereas lactose only has a glycemic index of about 45. So for some perspective, table sugar, which is sucrose, has a glycemic index of 65. So both corn syrup and maltodextrin have a higher glycemic index than your typical table sugar. Europe labels lactose as the preferred carbohydrate source because it is the predominant carbohydrate form found in breast milk. Newborns are born with the lactase enzyme, so they can break down lactose into its 2 monosaccharides. Surprisingly, only 1 in 60,000 infants are actually born with a true lactose intolerance. And lastly, because there are infant health advantages to lactose that no other carbohydrate substitutes currently have used in formula. Given all of these, Kendamil uses lactose as the primary carbohydrate source. So the last bit of this presentation will discuss regulations on certain contaminants in baby formula. First, we're going to talk about the regulations on heavy metals in US for infant formula. Heavy metals in baby food products, including formula, has become a public health issue over the last few years, and many parents have been rightfully concerned over the issue. From a staff report from the House of Representatives addressing heavy metals in the baby food category, exposure to toxic heavy metals causes permanent decreases in IQ, diminished future economic productivity, and increased risk of future criminal and antisocial behavior in children. Toxic heavy metals endanger infant neurological development and long-term brain function. The FDA currently has no mandatory regulation for the baby food industry to follow for metals such as arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury, and no action has been taken to limit the amounts of these components. In Europe, there are strict regulations on heavy metals and other contaminants. In fact, recently, Europe actually lowered the limits for both cadmium and lead in baby food. You can see here a direct comparison of regulations for two heavy metals, lead and cadmium. Europe has specific thresholds that baby products must fall under, whereas the FDA does not have any standard limit. For lead, all formulas must fall below 20 ppb. The FDA has a standard for juice and candy, but not baby formula. Similarly, when it comes to cadmium, Europe denotes a range for infant formula, whereas the FDA does not. Lastly, but not least, are the regulations for pesticides. Europe has a very low residue limit of 0.01 milligrams per kilogram for all pesticides in infant formula, whereas there are no set limitations by the FDA for infant formula in the US.
Thank you, Amarel, for that thorough review of the infant formula regulations. That concludes our presentation for today. We want to thank you all for joining us, and we hope that you learned something new and feel more confident with recommending Kendamil infant formulas and growing your clinical experience with utilizing the Kendamil brand. Don't forget that we will be sending out the link for the video that you could rewatch if you missed something, as well as to fill out a short survey to provide feedback and submit any questions that you thought of throughout the presentation. My contact information is on this screen. Please feel free to reach out anytime with clinical questions, needs, concerns. We're here for you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you.